bottom line is that whatever is there, whatever you may have, has to have grown large enough before they can see first evidence. And what they don't tell us is the population is that by the time they can see the tumor for the first time, it's already several years old. Was that helping us?
Hi, welcome back to Elevated Lifestyle TV. Remember, our goal is to encourage you to live empowered every day. I have the opportunity to speak to our guest, Claudia Barrington, who's been a nurse practitioner for over 27 years. She specializes in thermography breast examinations.
I just believe women deserve the right to know the truth. And that's just where I try to come from on a daily basis. I've been doing thermography for 20 years. I went through nursing school, graduated in '77, spent 20 some years in the operating room. So I know what women have gone through for their mastectomies and for their implants and, just about any procedure. So I just have a respect.
When and how often should women get a breast examination?
Well, it becomes a personal choice. Traditionally, the other modalities have recommended starting at 40 years of age. But what we know now is that women in their 20s and 30s are starting to develop breast cancer. So we can't wait that long.
You're saying it doesn't matter the age now? Because when I was growing up, I thought I was told that women should wait till they were 40 to get a breast examination. And so you're saying now women are getting cancer at early ages, so they should go as soon as, 15?
No.
That's too
soon.
soon.
Unless they have an issue at 15. If they feel a lump or something like that, yes, absolutely. But a mammography is not going to be appropriate for them to start radiating their chest at that age. So there's ultrasounds, there's the thermography, and those would be the two readily reasonable.
What is a thermography?
Thermography, otherwise known as digital infrared thermal imaging, is another option to your breast screening process. The technology is thermal infrared. So we're imaging you and we're capturing your skin temperature, because your skin temperature is a reflection of the current physiology that's going on. So we can identify inflammatory processes, which most issues are, nerve damage, vascular insufficiency, and again, that's all based on your skin temperature.
Oh.
So it's 100% safe. There's no radiation. It's painless. It doesn't require any body contact whatsoever or any injections or anything like that.
So is it a device or a machine?
Well, it's a device. It's about the size of a shoebox. We refer to it as an infrared camera.
What is the difference between the thermography versus the mammogram?
Okay, good question. So mammography is an X-ray. Everybody knows pretty much what an X-ray is. It's classified as a structural representation of whatever it is they're X-raying, or anatomical. Whereas thermography is physiological in its representation. So again, we're monitoring the skin temperatures and abnormal patterns. Now when it comes to our breasts, we all have our own unique sets of vascular patterns to our breasts. Yours are unique to you, mine are unique to me. And those patterns are literally with us for a lifetime. So in essence, they're like a set of fingerprints. So the reason that the vascularity of our breasts has any importance whatsoever is that we know scientifically that when a tumor is growing, that there's literally this whole new network of veins and vessels that sets up to feed the tumor. So therefore, the growth of the tumor would alter the set patterns that you have.
I like how you made something so complex sound simple. I love that. How long does the exam typically take?
Half hour. From the time you come in, fill out your paperwork, I do the imaging, and you get your clothes back on and pay.
Now, who is the ideal candidate to take this exam?
All women, basically. Again, we discussed age, so anyone that's having issues in their 20s is certainly appropriate. Any woman that has dense breasts, because it doesn't matter for us how dense your breasts are. Mammography struggles with that horribly. They can't see. It's like looking into a cloud for them. Women with implants, particularly, because it doesn't threaten them. It doesn't threaten the implant, as mammography does with the compression. Women who've had mastectomies, that it still works. You have to understand, with a mastectomy, it's called a subcutaneous mastectomy. I used to be a surgical nurse. So there's no way that they can get all of the breast tissue removed during that surgical procedure. So there's some bits and pieces that are left behind. So someone who has had a mastectomy would still benefit from screening, and especially if they've got implants put in post their procedures, so that would be safer. And the only exception to that is women who are currently lactating or breastfeeding. And the reason is, and let's go back to what I just defined to you, was how our breasts have vascular patterns, right? So when the breast is full of milk, those patterns, what's the word I want to use? Amplify, because the breast is hot with the milk, okay? So it's not your true pattern when the breasts are full of milk. So we don't screen when they're lactating. They have to wait about 3 months when till they're finished.
3 months after they're finished nursing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And so, of course, that's the same for if you're pregnant as well, because you're developing the milk.
Your breasts are changing. Yes.
Okay. Mammogram machine, it squeezes your breast.
Causes compression.
Okay.
And the compression has the potential to rupture the implant.
You know, I heard growing up that the mammogram was so painful. And
That
so,
hasn't changed.
see, I never had one, so it's like it's intimidating to me.
Understandable. I'm sorry. Yeah, my philosophy is this: we should not have to fear our breast screening process for any reason. It doesn't make sense.
Because it's so normal. Everyone's supposed to have a breast exam. So
Right.
I
We shouldn't
agree.
have to fear it. We shouldn't have to run away from it because of such and such and such and such, or the radiation, or the pain, or the. Nope.
I agree.
So the other modalities. So there's 3 other modalities besides the thermography. So we have the mammograms, we have the ultrasounds, and we have the MRIs. So those other 3 modalities are all considered structural in their representation. So the bottom line is that whatever is there, whatever you may have, has to have grown large enough before they can see first evidence. And what they don't tell us is the population is that by the time they can see the tumor for the first time, it's already several years old. Was that helping us?
No,
No.
not at all. So this exam, the thermographic is more accurate than the mammogram exam.
Yes, it's earlier.
It's earlier detected.
We know, remember I talked about the tumor setting up its
Yes.
blood supply. So we know by the year 2 that has begun to evolve. Because we're talking microscopic here, right? Tumors start off at 1 cell and they multiply to 2 cells and that multiplies. So it's a very slow process. People don't realize it. They think tumors pop up overnight like a pimple, and they don't. They take years to manifest. By the time you can feel one, that you feel a lump, it's already 7, 8, 9 years old.
So is breast cancer is breast cancer a tumor? So when you're checking for your exam, I was told to check your exam when you're in the shower. Is that lump, is that considered a tumor?
Well, it could
The
be a couple different things. It could be a solid mass, which would be a higher probability of being a tumor. It could be a cyst, which would be water-filled, fluid-filled, they call it. Or it could be another item called a fibroadenoma, which is more on the solid side, but it's benign. So until you get until you get more information to define what you're feeling. So your other modalities, the MRI, the mammogram, and the ultrasound, they define that structural aspect. As far as I'm concerned, ultrasound is far more clear. They can tell you the dimension, they can tell you whether it's fluid filled, whether it's solid, they can tell you what the edges look like, da-da-da-da-da-da.
Okay.
Your mammogram can't tell you all that.
Okay.
And then the ultrasound is benign, basically, and it being done.
That's interesting. Because I never heard of a thermographic exam.
And see, you're not alone, okay? Because the reality is that women have the right to know about all of their options, and they're not being told. Thermography's been around since the 60s, and it's used all over the world.
So what's your opinion? Why do you think they're not letting this be known to women or to people? Like, why is it such a secret?
Traditional medicine, okay, your traditional physician,
Of course.
is governed and controlled by the AMA. So the AMA sets the standards of care. So as far as the AMA is concerned, mammography is the gold standard in breast screening. So that's why your physician has to say to you, you need to get a mammogram.
Interesting. So how do us as women keep our breasts healthy?
Ooh. Well, there's a number of different influences. And on the top of the list and the most damaging is our x-rays. And that includes your mammograms. Here's a great little book. It's called Mammography Screening, Truths, Lies, and Controversies. There was a couple of gentlemen who were researchers, and they went in and they just went through all of the studies and everything else and found all the flaws. Yeah. So they boil it down to it just being an industry of greed.
That's what you just said.
And then this gentleman, Dr. Goffman, his name, he's a physicist, if you can spell that. Anyway, preventing breast cancer. He states that up to 3/4 of all breast cancers are a result of being exposed to ionizing radiation or x-rays.
Really?
Really?
So the thing that they tell us to go get can cause us to get
So
breast
just
cancer.
you haven't, you said you hadn't had one done.
Never.
Have you had one done? Okay. So when you go to have one done, they go in there and they set you up on the machine, right? They get you all compressed in there. And then the technician runs out of the room. Well, why does the technician have to run out of the room?
Because of the radiation?
Yeah. No, wait, can you come hold my hand while we do this? You can't. Why not? And they're supposed to cover you up, okay, with a thyroid protector, and they never do that, and shame on them. Thyroid dysfunction is one of the most frequently misdiagnosed or mistreated scenarios today. And part of it is that we're killing our little thyroids with all the x-rays, the dental x-rays, the mammograms, the chest x-rays. Killing our little thyroids. And back to breast health. Okay, so the number one threat is x-ray exposure. Whether that's through just general x-rays, CAT scans, fluoroscopy, and the higher you get up on the list there, the worse they are as far as the damage that they do. The damage is done at a cellular level. We don't see it, we don't feel it, but it's happening. Because this guy, is a physicist and he knows what's going on, right? So that damage is done over and over and over and over again, and the body can't repair that. So what happens to the cells? Every cell of your body has a designated identity. It knows what it is and what it's supposed to do. From a skin cell to a heart, muscle cell, to your intestinal cells, to spleen, whatever. They have their own identity and they know what to do. But when you disrupt that cell, if you want to call breaking it, and that's what the X-ray beam does. Kind of like the X-ray beam has such a force to it that it blows through the tissue and it disrupts those cells. So the body can't put that all back together again. So when you have a disrupted cell, the DNA or the instructional substance of that cell gets distorted. So in efforts to possibly continue, it has the potential to mutate into cancer. Damage equals mutation.
How do you get people to modify the way that they think?
Talk about it to whomever's listening or around or whatever scenario or setting that you're in, and you drip. And a lot of times something's going to happen to them that's going to shake them up. Either they heard a story from somebody else, or they did this, or they did that, and their curiosity is going to push them over the edge, and they're going to call me.
That's why I'm so glad we have you here with us today. Like, women all over are going to hear this, and I appreciate you.
So besides the X-ray exposure being probably the highest threat that there is, a couple other things. Hormonal imbalance, and we all go there, right? All women go there, there's no exception. So when we're prepping for menopause, in our 30s, our progesterone levels start to drop, okay? So by the time we hit our mid-40s, our progesterone's kind of dangling here, but our estrogen's way up here. That's called estrogen dominance. It's not our friend. Estrogen dominance causes a higher level of cellular proliferation, meaning that the cells are more active than they normally should be. So that increased cellular activity sets the stage for mutation, right? So that's what causes the changes in our female parts. So our breasts, that means the fibrocysticness, okay? Fibrocystic breasts are extremely common today, but they're not normal. We're not intended to have cystic breasts. It's our body's way of telling us it's out of balance. And then worst case scenario is breast cancer. Then we've got uterine fibroids, right? Worst case scenario would be uterine cancer. Ovarian cysts, worst case scenario would be ovarian cancer. It's all hormonally charged. Okay, so we got the hormonal thing. And then there's one more connection, another imbalance. I call them imbalances of deficiencies. So the deficiency is this. Your thyroid, okay, we kind of talked about the thyroid, tiny little organ, sits right here, huge responsibility. It's our metabolic furnace. So it has a direct correlation to your breasts. So thyroid demands the highest level of iodine, a simple mineral. It has priority in the body. So if it doesn't have the iodine that it needs, it's going to go and it's going to steal from your breasts because they demand the second highest level of iodine in your body. So if neither of those organs don't have the iodine that they need, they're going to become dysfunctional and start to grow things. Imbalances and deficiencies. And external exposures.
So how do we keep that balance? So we should take supplements?
That's one way, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Iodine supplementation. Theoretically, the majority of the population is deficient in iodine, amongst other things. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a great book by Dr. David Brownstein. He's the big iodine guru. It's called Iodine, Why We Need It and Can't Live Without It. Discusses that whole connection. So it's not unusual to have a client who's had breast cancer and they also happen to have a thyroid issue. No surprise. The third thing is vitamin D. Vitamin D, the research has repeatedly shown that women who had developed breast cancer were extremely deficient in vitamin D. So that's telling us that there's a protective aspect there. It's an immune booster. So the bottom line is for cancer, basically any cancer, if you want to go there, developing a cancer, it automatically says that your immune system is compromised because our immune system is designed to defend us. So that should be on the top of the list for anybody that's already experienced a cancer, and particularly anyone who wants to be preventive, is to keep their immune system boosted up. And if it's compromised, then you need to figure out why it's compromised. It's an inside job. Inside. I really try to, going back to the implants, for the ladies with the implants, I really try to empower them. I kind of set the stage because they ask, well, you know, my doctor says I have to get a mammogram. I said, well, yeah, he's gonna say that because he's required to say that. We already covered that. Anyway, so I tell the implanted client of mine, just when that conversation comes up across the table, you just sit up tall, get your shoulders back, look them straight in the eyes, and say very clearly, thank you, but I'm going to protect these. I'm going to protect these. So it almost becomes, excuse me, but like a slap in the face to the person across the table. Did you hear me? Because nobody cares. You need to care as an implanted woman.
Valuable information. I urge you to do more research on thermography and get your examination soon. I'm Lady Anwar. Until next time, family.